Kyle, we need to talk about this today. This is a cool topic, or it's a very interesting topic, or no, it's a serious topic,
Yeah, and it can get
and it
sticky.
can
It's
get
cool for us
sticky.
because we like making we like to help people in sticky problems and sticky situations. So we get excited at the idea of that. But
Yeah,
for the people involved in the situation we'll talk about today, I'm sure it's anything
yep,
but cool. They're
yeah,
they're going, this is a real pain in the neck. What do we do?
yeah. And for you listeners, it's kind of interesting because this is therapy time both for Kyle and I, for each other, because we've got all of a sudden five fires going on in our lives, and we just call each other like, "Oh gosh, I'm glad I'm talking to you. Shut my phone off."
For real. For real.
Uh, so this is what crazy people do, like us, for therapy, help others.
Honestly. And
So
I
here
hope
we
that
go.
our listeners, wherever you're at, one of the greatest compliments, by the way, if we got from a listener once was he goes, I just for 20 minutes when I'm walking and I can just zone out. And I love that. We talk about
Yeah,
being in a relaxed state of mind, and
yeah,
we're here to help you with some and help you grow your business little by little every single week. And you can't do that if you're a tight, balled up mess. And honestly, neither can we. So
right.
let's all just take a collective like
Mm.
breathe. We got 20 minutes to just chill and talk about how we can make life for ourselves and the ones we love around us a little bit better than when we first started today.
All right, and that's what we're here for. Okay, so we are responding to an email that we got this week that is essentially, Jimmy, help me. I have my best employee, my best salesperson in a retail store, and she is a negative Nelly. She's a sourpuss. She's always bringing everybody down, but she just happens to be the best salesperson here at the store. And so I've been in this spot. I've been in the spot not where they were negative, but I've been in the spot where it's like, oh, this is our best salesperson, but they're going against every bit of culture that I work so, so vehemently for to be strong and healthy. So Kyle, you know, have you ever had this kind of situation? Just
Yeah,
a negative.
yeah. In
Okay.
fact, I was
And it's
just thinking,
difficult because it's a subjective thing. It's not an objective. We always talk about metrics and managing people by metrics. This is a subjective thing.
yeah,
So how do you deal with that?
yeah. Well, I'll give you an objective part in a moment because I was thinking about that reading the email that in psychology there's an objective route we can take, but
Okay.
we'll come back to that.
All
Okay.
right.
Because I was thinking about a time when a key person that I worked with was and they weren't this way forever, right? I mean, they didn't come in a sourpuss. They weren't
Right.
a jerk, but there's a season of life that happened to them, things outside the company that just made their lives really, difficult. And they brought
Hmm.
that into the work. I mean, how could they not? If you knew what they were going through.
Yeah.
And it was just a real pain to work with them. And I remember feeling almost hamstrung because I felt like I need this person in my company because they are so important. And they're kind of using the company as therapy. Like coming to the business is the place of respite for them. The only problem is we're not counseling, we're not therapy, we're a business, and they're taking all their junk and they're just dumping it here before we
Right.
go back to the junk that they're dealing with. And that's not conducive to everyone else. And so I felt hamstrung, like I can't get rid of this person because I need him, but I also can't deal with it. And then if you point it out to that person, they're like, "Yeah, I know my life sucks. So what?
Hmm.
What am I supposed to
Exactly.
do about
Deal
it? What are you going to do
deal
about
with it.
it?" Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I remember it that in that season of life, feeling for months, what do I do? And I tend to err on the side of I'm going to be, especially with people who have loyalty to me and have been good performers. I'm going to tend to the side of being more lenient and more long suffering and compassionate, maybe to a fault, honestly. Um, and I don't know if that was a good thing or bad thing. I still don't know that, Jimmy, because I
Yeah.
felt like I made it go on a little bit longer than I could have, should have. Um,
Okay, but what if that person is taking everybody else down and your store with it?
yeah. and that was happening.
Yeah.
That was totally happening. You know, we put up boundaries. We started putting up defenses, and instead of just pulling the rug out from underneath this person, we set things up where that we just gave them less. We scheduled them less. We gave the rest of the team respite from them by not having them around.
Hmm.
And that was like a pressure release valve. It helped a little bit in that season in this situation where, we told that person just take PTO today, please, or just go
Hmm.
home, or please run these errands, or just get out, please.
Hmm.
And there were these little moments of respite, but I look back and I still don't know that that was the answer. That's just what we did.
Okay, so then, all right, I understand there, and everybody knows there's a problem, so they're not there one afternoon. Is how do you address that with the staff? I mean, do they bring it up? Are they chatting about it, or
Yeah.
how does it get discussed?
Well, gosh, I
And you,
mean,
as you're the boss, you want to be diplomatic about it.
right, right, and then yeah. So now we're in this like weird. I'm walking on eggshell territory
Hmm.
because I'm the boss, but everyone's talking. Everyone's aware that this person's life is difficult, and they're difficult to be around. And when they're not around, everyone's like, "Geez, can you believe so and so is going?"
Yeah.
And it's just so hard, and everyone's got different opinions and feelings. And my leadership style tends to be I wear it on my sleeve. And so I don't like, little conversations in the back here and there.
Hmm.
If we're going to have an issue, I'd rather just say, Jimmy, we got an issue. What's going on? How do we fix it?
Hmm. Right.
And I would try to approach that with everyone and just ask them, I know that so and so is really they're not in the office right now, but so I know they're really stressing you out. How you doing with that? Tell me, talk to me.
Yeah.
Now
Yep.
that did feel right because you can't assume what other people are feeling until you ask them what are you feeling?
Hmm.
And what I found was that other people were perceiving this negative person differently. Some people saw that person as a pain. They're frustrating, they're difficult. I don't like being around that person. I wish they'd go away. And other people saw that person compassionately, sympathetic or empathetically, and they go, that they are really difficult right now, but I understand why.
Mm.
And I got
Okay.
this lay of the land where now I understand where really everyone is on this issue, and they're all seeing it, and I
Okay.
understand how they're seeing it, and I can tailor the approach a little bit. Because if everybody on staff is like, yeah, they're a toxic mess and nonsense, well, like, okay, great, and they're gone. We all unanimously agree.
Right.
But if there's people on staff who feel compassion and sympathy and empathy, they might have a perspective of things that you don't have. And if you just get rid of that person, their perception of with the empathy and sympathy, they might grow kind of embittered to that response.
Hmm.
And in this particular case, for those who had sympathy for this person at that time, I would look at them and go, then what do I do? And they became a great ally to me because they sympathized and they empathized with that person, they were able to sit down with that person and say things that I couldn't say. They could be a friend to that person because they're colleagues. I'm the boss.
Yeah.
They could give me feedback and say, actually, when you do this, it really stresses them out, and that's why they responded that way. And they wouldn't tell you that. Okay, maybe I can tailor my response.
Okay.
That person who has, if there's someone who sees that with empathy on your team, they can be a really good source of a mirror. And you sit
Yeah.
with them and say, please reflect back to me. What do you think? What do we
Hmm.
do? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Yep. And it's a tough one because you and I are both Christians, and you want to be Christ-like. You want to handle this in a way that's, or at the very least, if you're not that nice, you want to be nice about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And we are all God's creatures, and therefoot, but for the grace of God go I. So we don't know what they're going through. And so and that's always the first route I'm going to take. I'm going to try to just give of myself and make their life better and do whatever I can. Um, Okay, so and that's Kyle and I, folks. If you want to take that route, I highly suggest it. But okay, so what do we do now if they just got to go?
Yeah. Well, we got to
They got to go.
determine. We have to have some reasons, right?
Right,
What's the
right.
and if it's just a feeling, okay. Employment law, by the way, can be different in your neck of the woods. So please consult accordingly with the professionals to give you advice on that,
Hmm.
and on how to do it. We've got some videos on our platform that can give you some resources on how to do that appropriately and with accountability. So
Yeah,
use that as a resource. But
yeah. And I will tell you, I'm going to add insert this in my situation. I had this in my store, and this person was our top seller.
mm,
So we had meetings and just were very, 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 very scared to make a decision to move this person out. But we decided in the end that in order to have a team a year from now, in order to have a store a year from now, this person had to go. Otherwise, they were all gonna drop like flies, and then I'd be stuck working with this one negative Nelly, and it just they had to go. Very, 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 very tough decision.
yeah,
But it's a happy story in the end. But again, yeah, like you said, we got to start documenting things, incidents, right?
you do. There's a process, and again, we've got some of those resources, and there's professionals out there. If you want to talk to Jimmy or I about your specific situation, I can't stress enough that when you're dealing with personnel on sensitive subjects like this, having that personal touch of an outside perspective is so nice, because you don't know what
Yeah,
you don't see, or
right.
what you're used to seeing. Sometimes you don't interpret it right. So outside eyes can really be useful. So use us. We give
Hmm.
the first call free. Please call us on that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
so, and I
Sometimes it's
want
good to just talk to somebody.
it is, yeah, just get it out, man. And I want to come back to your happy ending. My story has a happy ending as well. Um, it's not without difficulties along the way. But I mentioned that there is an objective path that we can take for just a moment, and we've got, as the store owner, the manager, whoever is in charge, I need you to just take off all the emotions for a moment, put them aside, be as objective as we can. And I can give you the highlights of what I'm going to talk about here, which is, in psychology, there's four kinds of communication. This actually comes from marriage counseling. There's four kinds of communication patterns that, if they pop up in in your relationship with somebody, the relationship killers. I don't
Oh,
care how nice they are, or what you have in common, or the sympathy, empathy you've got. If these four communication patterns, any one of them exist, it's a death blow to the relationship. So you have
oh,
to fix it,
okay.
or it's not going to end well, right?
All
Works
right.
for marriages, family, and in this case, in business. We call them the four horsemen of the apocalypse, the, because they're that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So we have to sit back and you look at the communication patterns and you say, is there stonewalling, defensiveness, criticism, or contempt? If they're just having a
Okay.
bad day, that's one thing, and life sucks. But weeding out these patterns is important, and there is a counter to each of them, and I don't have time to get into it today. But let me quickly tell you, stonewalling means I talk to you, Jimmy, and you don't respond to me. You don't want to give me an answer. That's
Hmm.
not acceptable. If I'm asking you a question and you just stonewall,
Hmm.
that's not going to be healthy. Stonewalling defensiveness means, hey, Jimmy, I think that you come in a little bit negative, and you respond back with, oh, that's not my fault. I'm going to put the blame on something else.
Right.
And you're never going to have accountability. You always defend by putting it on something else.
Sure.
Criticism means, if I tell you you've done something that's kind of negative today, or I don't like this pattern, you fire back with, oh, yeah, well, and you give me
Hmm.
what I'm doing wrong instead of taking accountability and responsibility,
Ah,
right? And
okay.
contempt is that you feel like you're above everyone else. Jimmy, you've come in a little bit negative, and you go, oh, yeah, well, you have no idea what my life is like and what I'm going through. and you're
Uh,
putting yourself above everyone else.
yeah. Okay.
When those patterns of communication show up and you can learn those patterns, if you can't get those countered and weeded out, you it's toxic. And unfortunately, it's not going to get better no matter the
Hmm.
circumstances because it's like those communication patterns are poison. And so when you see this, and if you can back up for a moment and you've done some things to try to correct it, but you're seeing one of those patterns, that's your cue. Okay,
Yeah.
we got it.
And that is that the objective pattern thing you were referring to
Yeah.
earlier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, there's ways to counter those and try to get those out. That's what marriage counseling is all about, and we can apply
Right.
that in the world of business. But I'm interested because as I described those four things in your situation, that in your story, you talked about having to let someone go. I'm going to take a bet that probably one of those patterns was showing up more than the other in that person.
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. Yep. And I'm so glad. If we can back up about 3 steps here, I think initially a lot of us are afraid to have that first conversation.
Mhm.
You know, that first conversation needs to happen. And especially when it comes to employment law, because now we're starting to document points at which, very important points, right?
Yeah.
So we have that conversation, and hey, I just, whether it's, hey, I noticed your attitude's been changing lately, or your energy, um, or you know, the energy that you normally have. What I'm trying to say is either they just turn this way, things are they're going through a season in their life, or they've always been this way. So I hope you don't have a person that's always been that way. But anyway, but it's nonetheless it's that first conversation that is really so hard to have. How do you have that first conversation, Kyle?
Ooh, you're going to have to answer this better than me because, again, remember that my leadership style is one where I don't mind
Right.
wearing it on my sleeve. So
Oh yeah, yeah,
if I
yeah, yeah,
see it, I'm the kind of guy who's going to go up and be like, I don't like what's going on. Are you okay? What's going on?
yeah, yeah.
That does not work
That's
for
me too.
everyone.
Well, that's
Really?
me too. But all of the professional advice that you're going to get is nip it in the bud right away. Do not let it fester. The longer it festers, the more it destroys your team.
People don't like conflict, and
Hmm.
I've rarely found people who say they like conflict, and those who
Right.
do just like to pick fights, right? But
Yeah.
I love conflict because conflict to me is, I'm going to reframe it for you. Conflict is an opportunity to resolve a problem and make life better.
Hmm.
So if I can find the small conflict that's brewing, the small problem, and I can go to it and nip it in the bud as quickly as possible, it won't become a big weed. Big
Yeah.
weeds are harder to pull than those little guys.
Yeah.
And so I like that. And learning communication is important. I'm going to give you a resource if you're listening and you want a good book to listen to. And there's various kinds of them, but there's one, it's by an author named Henry Cloud, and the other guy's name is Townsend. And the book is called Boundaries. Boundaries. And they have
Okay.
boundaries for leaders, boundaries for marriages. Healthy relationships start with healthy boundaries. And that's a great resource to go to in this situation and begin learning how, as a leader, you can go to people and have those conversations and set up healthy boundaries with people so that you have a good relationship going forward and you're not freaking out at the idea of conflict. You start to reframe it and see it as an opportunity for you two to grow and get better. Or if you're not, then say, okay, then this is not going to work for
Hmm.
us.
Okay. Um, so I'm going to jump ahead 5 steps here, and have you ever seen it like resolve itself to a happy ending, like and work, and the person change?
Yeah. Yeah. In my situation, so in yours, you had to let someone go, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In mine, um, in my situation, we were able to take some time, build some empathy, set up some defenses, and say there are some boundaries here that we need to set up.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to let this. There was what we saw was we those were there were not toxic communication patterns. there was just behaviors that, because of things that are outside of their control, they cannot contain themselves, and it's not working. So it ended up
Okay.
being, let's have a conversation about what your employment needs to look like, because your personal life is going through a lot,
Hmm.
to the point where you can't do what you need to do here at work. So let's recraft it so that you can take care of what's most important.
Yeah.
The person ends up
Okay.
taking a leave of absence, a sabbatical, and
Okay.
it was extended. It was quite a while, but there were difficulties in that. But when they came back, they were able to go take care of their issues and resolve some things and go through some things in their life they needed to take care of. And then they were able
Okay.
to come back. And because we had good communication patterns, I'm going to tell you today, the relationship I have with that team is the best it's ever been. And we love each other. And we know, I know, and they know we're there for each other. But also, there are boundaries here. And I won't cross them, and you won't cross them, because we have to do that for us to function well. But
Right.
if we can do that, then I'll stick my neck out for you all day, every day. And so
Right.
will they. And I feel
Yeah.
that now.
Okay. Okay. And for me, it was a situation where the person had to go, clearly had to go, and it wasn't pretty, but we had documented everything, so we were good there. Um, and but my team, because of that person going, everybody's attitude when that person was coming in the store was very negative. Oh, I'm gonna have a bad day today. That was kind of, that was the nice way to say it. But the moral of the story is they ended up coming in one by one, actually coming in saying, "Listen, I'll take on extra hours. Our sales will not dip." She was their top salesperson, and our sales will not dip. And you can increase our goals, whatever. Uh, and so the entire team was happier for it.
Mm.
Okay, so we had to cut the bad weed out, and but
How
you
long,
know.
by the way, how long did it take for your team's culture and environment, number one, to get to a better place? And then number
Yeah.
two, how did you ever experience the dip in sales, or the fallout that you thought you were going to have when you
Never.
fired that person?
We did not, we did not, we did not experience that fallout at all. As a matter of fact, because of that customer, that person, there has been customers that had come in and said, "Oh my goodness, I'm so glad to work with you. Thank you." And so
Yeah.
they were feeling it as well. And so, it was a good thing all around, and that person went on to just be successful somewhere else. And of course, we all learn lessons, whether we say it or not. We all learn lessons about how to work, how to live, how to behave with other people. And so it was very very difficult to come to that decision, and it had been it was about a year in the making, because I was dealing with backbiting and talking behind backs and things like that at the store,
Mm.
and I'm like you. We got to deal with this. We got to deal with this head on. And so anyhow,
You know, I
we
want to
we
share
tried to
this.
help. We tried to help as much
w-
as we could.
Yeah, and you want to, but there's a point, you're the keeper of the culture, and
Hmm.
there's more people than just yourself and
Yep.
them.
Yep.
Um, I can think of a situation with a client that is not a head-on kind of, has no problem
Hmm.
running in there and saying stuff. And I'm thinking about a similar situation that one of our clients had with kind of a similar deal. And they finally pulled the plug and let the person go.
Right.
That was kind of at the end. And in their case, it was actually within what, a month or two, then the rest of the team starts rising to the occasion.
Yeah.
Things are
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
I've seen that over and over. And so, real quick, I want to talk to the 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 person who sent us that message, and every listener who has experienced or is experiencing that. If you're sitting here going, "That's me,"
Hmm.
no matter your personality type, you could. Number one, I want you to know you can do this. Number two, not gonna lie to you, it's hard. One of the
Yeah.
hardest things you will do as a business owner or a leader is have to let people
Mhm.
go, and it never gets easier. It shouldn't.
Yep. Yeah.
And number three, please don't do it alone. I I I distinctly remember every time I've had to do that, my first impulse and inclination is I want to reach out to someone and a leader and just go,
Mhm.
"Bleh, this sucks." And
Yeah.
you're one of those people for me. We want to be there for you. If you're going through this, call on a trusted leader. And if you don't have someone or you want to reach out to us, please do
Yep.
to get an objective view so that you know that you're not crazy here, and that person can also tell you the fallout isn't going to be what you think it's going to be. It's going to
It's
be
not.
okay.
It's gonna be okay because customers are still gonna walk through your door and they're still gonna buy products.
Yeah.
And in the situation that we're talking about here, this was a big tourist town, so they don't know
Yeah, they have
they
no
don't
idea.
know anything about anything.
No.
So just sell them products and be happy.
Yeah. And look, I've
Um,
had I've had it on the flip side where we've had to let someone go in an organization, and that person then proceeded to go off and slander and malign the organization at every turn. They,
mhm,
flipping tables everywhere. And guess what? It was fine because
yeah,
the integrity of the leaders in the organization, the integrity of the organization itself speaks for itself.
yeah,
So if you lead with integrity, it's going to be okay.
yeah.
But don't do it alone. Please don't do it alone.
Well, don't do it alone, meaning have advisors, have somebody there to kind of hold your hand throughout the way, but also don't do it alone, like in a room by yourself.
Oh, right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Physically, don't do it alone as well.
Yeah.
So that's very important. And I've also objectified, and I want to say objectify from the standpoint of when it comes to legalities, you got to have some objective things down on paper. So what I did is when I sat down, I said, okay, here's what the expectation here is at our store. This is our store culture. So the expectation is that we are going to behave accordingly. And that was, the basically the golden rule. And this person was stealing customers and being clandestine about, yeah, it was an
Yeah.
ugly situation where this person kind of had their fingers in everything. So anyway, what I did is I set those objective, here's our expectations, and this is what has to change. Here's exactly what needs to change. And for me, it was strike one, strike two, strike three, and they had to go, and things were better. But yep, and it was so hard to make that decision. After we made the decision, after it happened, we were all like, whew, what a load off our shoulders. And now the business literally grew exponentially
Well,
because now I had a team that was, and of course in our world, you and I, we of course would pray for those people, give them any support we could. You and I would give the shirt off our back to help those people, even after they slandered us.
yeah.
um, I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that that's how Daddy raised us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, it,
Yeah.
so
But you can also tell someone who's hurting you that you want to love and that you want to serve. I want to love you, and the best way for me to love you is to not work with you.
yeah,
It's
yep,
it's just not going to be well, and I have to make
hmm
that decision.
right.
Um, you can still love people in that.
You can,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And sometimes that's the way to love them,
yep,
you know.
yep.
So
Okay, well, we have successfully, no, I don't know if we've successfully, but we've talked about and hopefully given you all some peace in this situation. Um, Again, I haven't had a situation where it's turned around and they just changed that type of thing, um, but I do know situations where I've dismissed people and they came back years down the road and said, "Best thing that ever happened to me." Best
yeah,
thing that ever happened to me. It woke me up. Okay. So I pray that's the situation for you all if indeed it does come to that. Other than that, Kyle, do you have any wrap up thoughts?
no. Again, I hope you hear this with peace, and know you're not alone, and know that it's not that things are not as dire on the other side as you think. In fact, it can be